Camera also works. We should be good to go. Alright, in particular,
I think the first one actually is the one that Pavel. Oh no, this is not the one. Pavel was supposed to file one that he needs for pipelines.
I keep thinking this is something. It's called T. It's the worst thing.
And I'm not sure if he has it. Maybe we won't be able to review it today. Because basically, he wants ability to get some internals from, I think, from sequence position. And he wants to add like Marshall-like APIs. But I don't think the issue is yet filed. And I told him I worry a bit, like we keep adding more and more of these Marshall backdoors. So that's worry number one. Secondly, we need to decide, are they go to the same class or they are on some different type.
I think the solution was just giving you everything anyway, no?
Yeah, but it gives you wrong information because basically inside there's an int and an object, but they are like masked. So if you access it on memory sequence, or read-only sequence, you're getting some like negative ints, which people complain that, you know, they thought it's an index, but it's a negative int. What do I do with it? Well, you have to apply a mask. So now he wants an API to apply the mask for you, and I kind of would like to discuss it. But since he's not in the room and it's not ready, let's just move on.
Right. So
we can move on to the first one because it's also kind of shipping. It's proposed by Ben.
Yeah, I think you can look at this one as well. I think all the hardware ones we should probably skip and do them together. Because there's a general thing going on with hardware intrinsics. Not sure what's going on with this one. I thought we were already close on that one. Hardware. Don't know what's up with this one. Don't know what's up with this one. And actually, this one we talked about. That's right. Yeah. And then if you finish all of them, I eat my hat that I don't wear. Alright, so
I see. So basically, so read-only memory of T and memory of T can be created either by just calling a constructor, passing an array or a string, or you can create owned memory, which is like a lifetime manager for arbitrary memory, and then you get read-only memory out of it. So Ben is proposing that we add an API that lets you fish out owned memory out of read-only memory. Kind of you shouldn't be doing it. Yeah, that's why he wants to put it on MemoryMarshal. And I think it's consistent. This one is consistent with some other APIs that we added to MemoryMarshal. The only thing I don't understand is why is he proposing that the return type is object and not owned memory?
In his usage, he expects that it's going to be a RIO memory pool block.
Exactly, which has to inherit from owned memory.
Oh.
Is Ben online?
Yeah, he's online. He hasn't responded to my question yet. Maybe he's just doing what I try to do, which is getting a T.
What's the use case?
So, I think basically he stores additional information inside subclass of owned memory. And now he wants to, like the ID is this additional information, and he wants to be able to get to it.
Oh.
So he has a read-only memory, and he wants to get the ID of the owned memory.
Yeah, but why?
Oh, because in RIO, registered IO, you kind of cannot just refer to, you know, like pass memory block, you have to pass an ID of the block.
So it's a legitimate scenario, not a, oh, I can improve perf in this, or oh,
Yeah.
I want to do a sneaky thing, or...
Yeah. I would almost describe it as owned memory is a class. You can inherit from it. You can kind of extend it. But then once you get into the memory world, they are all structs. They don't have more information to give you.
I mean, the same's true once it goes into span.
Yeah, correct.
And I don't think that we would then push try and rewind all the way back to an owned memory from the span.
Probably not from the span. It may be hard, but people are trying to do it. For example, there was a change that allows you now to get string out of span. If you happen to wrap string in span.
Well, if you have you're out of a read-only spanning chart.
Yeah.
He said it's object because that's what the underlying field is. He doesn't want to do the check twice. Right?
He doesn't want the
Cast to happen twice.
But why would it happen twice?
Well, because he wants to cast for a derived type, right?
Oh, he wants to then get the derived type.
If we store the thing as object, well, it just gives you back what it is, right?
Okay, I see the reason. I wonder whether it's worth it. Because it makes the API so much less self-describing.
Isn't that better for these crappy APIs we don't want people to use most of the
Would there be value in making it
generic,
where you give it the type that you expect it to be? When you can give it owned memory if you are going to do a waterfall cast later?
That's a possibility.
Because generic methods are relatively low cost, right? It's generic. There are fields and generic types that Ron is talking about.
Well, or generic methods over like structs. This one would be a class, so it would be shared.
Yeah, except this can't really be a generic, because that would be awkward to call. I mean, like, he's kind of like this is all generic over T, right? So you would have to have two generics now, and you cannot infer them anymore. It's like,
well,
yeah,
because it would be explicitly the return type generic. The read-only memory of T in is.
No, I get that. What I'm saying is now you have to also pass into T, right?
Well, yes.
You have to pass the second T. Yes.
So essentially, we're forcing the cast operation into the function call. I mean, this returns null if it's not owned memory? Is this? Do we then need an access, or do we then need a method to hide the owner from the get owner?
What do you mean? Hide the?
Like, are there scenarios where we think that someone shouldn't be able to call get owner and get the thing back? Something like that. So
On Memory Marshal. We allow people to do really dangerous things in some of these. But first, the method needs to be generic, correct? It needs to have one T already.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it would look like this, which I think will be
fair enough.
Not great.
Okay. All right. So yes, having specified both T's explicitly, I guess I can agree with that.
Well, the only question is, I mean, does the API need to be, inferable, easy to use?
Yeah, pretty.
I go with no. I would say the people that will use the API are like probably doing something very similar to what Ben is doing, and so that means
if we're using our Marshall friend and interrupt, everything is inputters and objects. Not that it's a great example of an API. But.
So without this API, I mean, like the workaround is just to keep like the own memory with your original memory, or what? I mean, like,
and/or private reflection.
Well, that's not a workaround.
Private reflection is always a workaround.
No, that's a hack. It's not a workaround. Hacks are not workaround.
I think the problem is that the moment you want to keep them both, you have to change the type. So you would have to create a small struct that wraps memory and the own memory. Now you cannot interop with some other APIs. So
you still have the own memory, so you can interrupt, right?
I assume the problem would be if you pass the memory into an API that eventually gives it back to you. It's a struct, so you can't reference equality it to something. So now he's trying to get back to which of my factories created this.
Yeah, I think
it's reasonable. I don't think we need to abuse people
Oh, here's another.
You'll get word memory marshal, right?
What happens if we introduce a new type into the system that is not on memory?
This one just returns null if it's not on memory.
Then we need to add another API that gives you back the other thing, because this one is already hardwired.
We already have, well, so, memory can wrap string or array directly. This API would already return you null if it's not as on memory.
Oh, this one would probably give you back whatever the field has.
Really?
I think so. And otherwise, why would you do? I mean, otherwise you do the cast, right?
I mean, do we put the string in the owner field of memory? If so, it'll give it back.
Well, we already have an API, try get array, try get string, I assume. Oh, yeah, you can get from.
Like an array. What? Oh, that's an out.
Which, actually, now that I'm thinking, maybe we should just follow the same pattern. It should be try get owner.
It's a memory of T though.
What?
It's directly on memory of T though.
Oh, try get array?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of not unsafe.
I mean, this one probably should not be an extension method either, right? It should probably just. Do we already have any?
Well, no. So I think the reason that on memory of T you have try get array is that it's kind of not. It's not a loophole for the read-onliness of the type. I think Ben wants specifically read-only memory, which then gives you something that is basically read-write, and all these are on MemoryMarshal.
Yes, corrected. Like on MemoryMarshal, we also have try get array, and that takes a read-only memory.
Yeah, because it lets you escape the read-onliness.
That's right.
So I think this one kind of should be probably called try get owned memory, correct?
So let me just.
And just follow the same pattern, and then we just add it. So if you have read-only memory, you can get either string or owned memory or array. But use the same API, like a try API.
Try get. What do you call it? On memory?
It's memory string and array. You have array already, right? So you're saying that string as well?
I think we may already have the one to get string.
I don't see like MemoryMarshal.
There's nothing on MemoryMarshal?
On MemoryMarshal, I see try get array.
So,
You should probably
like this then?
and try get string,
Well, except the return parameter is on T owner or T.
Oh, sorry, it should not be this. It should be.
So the try get array, that exact signature exists in at least in the current core CLR version of MemoryMarshal.
Oh, it should probably be. Is it all memory or is it all memory of T?
Well, it needs to be. So this is the question of double downcast.
Right.
Do we care about the double downcast? How costly is it?
So I think there's two different sides here. One of them is, do we want to hide the fact that in the same field that we store the own memory, we also store the string and the array? Because if the answer is yes, then you will always have to do a cast anyway. Because you need to basically separate also the string, in that case they return null.
No, because we encode in one bit inside the index, whether it's own memory or a string. We don't attempt a cast.
So what's the index value when it's a string?
There are some ints inside, and if the int is negative, then it's an
array. So we can tell without doing the cast whether it's an own memory or not.
Apparently, according to try to get array, if
the
index is less than 0, then it's an own memory.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So the same is true for array. So it's not just for strings, it's also for arrays. For anything, you basically know whether the object is stored in own memory or not, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we could do that.
So we know, but then we have to. But then it doesn't change the fact that we know. Now we do a cast. It has some cost, and Ben is saying, and now he has to cast again to a subtype of own memory, which may have additional cost. Now the cost is small, so I wonder whether it matters, because what you wrote here is much nicer API than an alternative where it has a second type parameter. Having said that, now that it's an out parameter, they would be both inferred.
Good point. They could both be inferred. That wouldn't be bad. And we could even constrain this one, right?
Yep.
We could even say, if we wanted to, where T is on memory. Well, that being said, I'm not sure once you add the constraint whether it's still inferred.
So I have another problem, I guess, with the API. So the one that gives you an array, it gives you both an array and the ints that describe the slice of the array. This one doesn't. So let's say you have read-only memory and it's just a slice of the owner. How do you get the ints? Ben?
Well, I'm not sure he cares.
Yeah, he probably doesn't care, but
Yeah, he said don't care.
yeah, he doesn't care because he just wants the ID.
Yeah, he just wants to get whatever he stored in the object probably.
But I feel like the API is now kind of incomplete. It works for him to get the ID, but it basically gives you owned memory.
So how do you know these slice and offset things today?
They are inside memory of T. There are two fields.
Oh, there's memory of T and then there's own memory of T. And so from own memory you don't know what the memory was?
Yeah, so memory of T is just a view over owned memory of T. So it's a pointer to owned memory and to ints.
I see. If you had an owned memory, you make a memory from it, and you slice it. When you call slice get owned memory, you don't know how far into the owned memory you were.
Given the memory element, I also don't get to the own memory, right? So even we'll give you the API that gives you back in memory, it wouldn't help you, right?
So essentially, it would need to out the to owner and the offset and the length.
Which would make the API even slower, but more complete. I wonder whether we care. Maybe we don't care.
I mean, quite frankly, if we cared, we could still say, okay,
we just add an overload.
Yeah, we just add an overload and say you only pay for the additional extraction if you care. But then it's, self-contained, right? What is it? What do we call it? Index.
Yeah.
And of course, these are all variables. Index. Right. I think that would be a nice API. I mean, it's nice from the standpoint it's self-contained. And pay for play.
Yeah.
Do we care about this constraint here?
If you're going to return it.
I mean, either we don't constrain it, and if we add another magical thing in the future, then this will start emitting those, or we constrain it, and all that this does is introduce a compiler check.
Yeah, I think if we don't constrain it, I would expect it to also work if it's not owned memory, but rather an array or a string. It just returns an object, and then you cast it to whatever you...
Plus, the fact that we're calling it try get owned memory means that we should encode in that there's an expectation that it is only emitting owned memories.
Yeah.
Are we saying then you're okay without the constraint?
Well, no, so I would say if we change it such that it doesn't have the constraint, it should be called try get, I guess, and gives you anything. It just gives you the object field.
Try get memory.
Does it make sense of the second overload?
it would make sense for any of the overloads. Having said that, I don't know how do you use the API. You get the object and then you try to downcast to either string or an array.
Well, even if you remove the constraint, you would pass in the T you want, right? So you would only pay for the class 1. Right? That's what the generic is here.
If what?
The problem would be if you want
if we just do this, right? You can still pass in
string,
real own memory, right?
Yeah.
Only class once.
Yeah.
So you don't.
But I'm just saying, would you expect it to work if I pass string as the owner?
Why would you would just get false and null, right? So
Why would you not get a string?
If
So
it depends on what this thing does, right?
if
Exactly,
the memory was backed by a
exactly.
string, would we want this to return the string?
What you said earlier, I would expect us to check the bit, right? And if the bit is not set, it will just give you null immediately and false. If the bit is set, it will attempt to pass. That's what I would expect to happen.
Yes, and then an alternative API could just not do any checks, just give you the object field.
I'm fine with that too.
So essentially, we would just be exposing the get.
I mean, Stephen is also on. Stephen, do you have an opinion on that, or you're awfully quiet? I'm not sure that's good or bad.
I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Okay.
I think that since we already have try get array and somewhere we might have try get string, that we should constrain this. And if later we find out that people want it unconstrained, we can add another API later that doesn't constrain.
I'm good with that.
Honestly, given that we already had the other APIs, I kind of like the idea that we can tell by the API pattern what people try to do. If you make it too generic, then it's like, well, we never find out what people are trying to do about it.
All right, then add the constraint to the first one, and let's ask, wow, lots of X's.
That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
And is Ben happy with this API?
Let me check the chat.
I mean, you would double downcast if you were wanting to if, else if, else if, else if. But that turns out that's already expensive, so
Okay.
who cares?
Okay, he's happy with that.
Having said that, so one thing that people know, we kind of have a schedule, and I'm not sure whether we can even add this API still now. But Josh should make the call.
Josh said that.
Schedule's the end as well.
No, this week you have to finalize the APIs and feature completed. This is what I hear.
I mean, there's approving the API, which is our
It's
job.
done.
and then there's somebody actually making a PR and doing it.
Oh well, another thing is, so if Ben,
So essentially code complete at the end of the month.
I think the biggest problem is basically we don't have people to do more work because they are already scheduled with some other work items. So if Ben actually submitted this PR, I assume we would take it.
I suspect we're basically going to take everything until we get that cutoff point.
Yeah.
Risky things we might decide to hold because we're too close to work.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking why we don't make these APIs, or why do we make these APIs static? It's hard to mock. I'm not sure that making them instance methods make it any easier to mock these APIs. Like that's just not how this stuff works. Let me just apply the labels. API, what is it? API proof. Ready for review. Yeah. And when you see the discussion, we just said we don't want to make it object because we want to constrain it to the read-only memory so that we know that this is the only thing people can actually get out of that. But yeah, it's a bit more ugly in C#, that's true. Because arguably this one reads nicer than out. But alright, so what do we have?
That's clearly just an aesthetic decision because I disagree. So.
Alright, Steven, you're up.
So on the new sockets HTTP handler, well, take a step back. On HTTP client, there is a timeout that represents the entire request. So from beginning to end, if it takes longer than that, it times out. But some folks want to be able to time out just the connection phase so that if it takes a long time to connect to a particular server, they can just time out that part, but once they're connected, they can have a very long operation and it could take as long as they want. And so in some other places, there's a similar connect timeout expose, and this would be doing the same thing, basically just a fine-grained timeout on the connection phase of opening the HTTP connection.
I assume this is the same name as the timeout on the underlying socket?
I don't think the underlying socket has one, does it?
Well, then how are you going to implement it?
A cancellation token where we register with it and dispose of the underlying connection, the underlying stream. For the connection phase, socket has a static method that allows you to cancel the operation. It's like cancel connect async or something like that. And so we register a cancellation token and we invoke that operation when cancellation is requested.
So I can't find the type sockets HTTP handler. This is actually the real type name?
It is. It's the new thing we were adding in 2.1.
When's the last time you imported?
This morning, I think.
We just reviewed this a couple of weeks ago and came up with this name. Maybe you weren't here.
Yeah, I just indexed this morning. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. Interesting. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, given I can't see the type, I'm fine with the API by itself.
It was called managed handler before, I think, if you want to see what it was previously.
Possible that we
So are the ODBC drivers call it connection timeout? That seems to be the only. I don't see any connect. Well, I guess SQL connection string builder calls it connection timeout. There lots of things call it connection timeout.
But to me, connection. So if there's a consistency argument, then we should go with consistency. But connection timeout to me is I have a connection. I already connected. This one is I want to connect. I don't yet have a connection.
Well, I mean, the way that works in...
I already have a connection.
Yeah, I have a connection, and now I wanted to, for example, time out after some time, and we added some APIs to basically, recycle connections after some time.
The verb connect versus the object connection.
Request connect timeout.
Honestly, to me, connect timeout makes more sense.
Okay.
Because the method is called connect.
Yeah.
I was just looking for consistency. So, and it's possible that the connection timeouts are the thing Christoph said. So,
Yeah, we have the caches. Cache timeout.
yeah.
If you're looking for consistency, you alluded to how does socket do this under the covers. Socket's method is called cancel connect async rather than cancel connection async.
Okay. So, it is the timeout for connect, which is a socket term. So, sure.
Right, so that means we seem to be happy with this one as it is proposed.
So another timeout, when you enable expect 100 continue for an HTTP request, basically what you're doing is you're, rather than sending all of your post content, you're sending a header that says expect 100 continue, and you delay sending your content until you hear back from the server that says, okay, go ahead. But sometimes you never hear back from the server and you just want to send the content anyway. So most implementations will just send it after some period of time, regardless of what they hear back from the server. And we're currently hard-coded to 1 second, but we'd like to be able to make that configurable. So this is the API that would let you do that. If you scroll down, you'll see that this is exposed under different names in other places. So it's called continue timeout in some other places. I think that's sort of too generic a name, but we could go with that if we're bent on consistency.
To be honest, I like continue timeout a little bit more because it's not quite as much lingo. Like you don't have to read the spec to know what's going on.
Well, no, but you need to read the documentation to understand what it means, and then you need to read the spec to understand what the documentation means.
Right, but if I see like names and numbers, I'm like, okay, this is internal GUI, I probably will never read the docs. Right? This one looks attractive to drill into. This one turns me off right by the name. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's just how I work, but like it depends on how many people we expect this to set. But if the answer is nobody, maybe the
So what happens if I search the web for expect 100 timeout?
Name the search engine test. Let's try this. It's HP code apparently, so stuff shows up.
And if I search for continue timeout, just continue. Remove it.
It's literally the next suggestion.
No, but remove everything and just search for continue timeout.
Oh, continue timeout. I see.
Sure. Shows. All are fine.
Except this one is specific to us.
Yeah, it seems like the 100, whatever, expect 100
Issue
timeout
shows up in the search result. Oh, that's pretty good. It's like, so you can totally fake your search engine test. Found the bug publicly. Oh, it shows up.
What if you Bing it?
I don't care, one way or the other. Any strong opinion, otherwise I'm going to approve of this.
No.
Right. Consider adding MemoryMarshal.GetOwner. Didn't we just literally talk about that?
I mean, like, I don't know if it's in the
No.
rep, but it's literally
That's a different one. Okay.
No, literally, like, look at this.
Yeah, this one basically does similar thing from read-only sequence.
But
Oh.
From an implementation detail, this would require putting read-only sequence into MS Corelib, right? Or to Corelib.
yep.
What is it only sequence? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's the read-only buffer. It was renamed to read-only sequence.
This is the
It's the multi-span.
Okay.
Oh, that guy. Is this ready, or should we postpone this and like?
Well, so the thing is that, so I see that basically is Pavel online?
Probably not. Let me
Like,
check.
is read-only sequence shipping into one?
Yes.
Shit. What's his last name again? Car K something, right?
Have we looked at read-only sequence yet?
Yes.
I don't remember. Maybe I missed that day.
Was it a big meeting? Or was it a fast meeting?
It was a big meeting.
Because I don't remember talking about it. but
Friendly.
I don't make it to most of the big meetings.
Yeah, let's make sure we have those in the room. Otherwise, I mean, you can set up this week some another meeting if you really have to, but like, I don't think it's.
Yeah, because it would be good to discuss it with him. I have few. Maybe you can write some feedback. Like for example, so read-only sequence is a sequence of buffers. So which buffer does it give you? The first one only?
Yeah. Can the sequence have? I guess if it was the empty sequence, then all the tries would just fail. But yes, once there are two, does it give back? Ooh, if you give back an enumerable.
This seems like a fairly uncommon thing, would only be useful for a specific kind of niche thing. Can you not just enumerate the sequence and then call try get on each one?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking a question that I would have. That's why it would be good to have Pavel in the room.
But of read-only sequence, can you get a memory from those?
Yes, you can. You
So
can
the
get.
API that we just added will solve this problem. We just you just have to loop it
It's
yourself.
entirely possible. It depends what this API does. Maybe it gives you the fifth memory. Correct?
Yeah, but anything if from the read-only sequence you can get the memory,
Yes.
then you can do whatever you want with the primitive that we just approved. If you want to get the fifth one, you can. If you want to get the first one, you can. You just have to loop the memories yourself.
Yeah, let's punt this
What's
on
your
the
memory?
Yeah, I actually think that you may be right. Maybe, oh, okay, they also say that they need to get iMemory list.
Yeah, they need the list, which makes sense.
The list is probably not, the items in the list are not inherited from old memory, but anyway.
Let's just look at the other ones we actually.
Can you also oh, shoot, you already closed. If you could add a note to point him to the API that we just added and ask him whether it.
If we can solve it in terms of API that we've already added, then we can reconvene this.
Also, Ben added some information about the bug. Maybe we could look quickly at the bug. Yeah, okay. Okay, fine. Yeah, the bug is already closed because it's not a bug, it's a confusion.
Not a bug.
Okay.
Not a bug. Not a bug. Not a bug. Add decompression.
We talked about this briefly and had just said we'd separate out into a separate issue, so I opened a separate issue. It's not critical, though. If we want to talk about 2.1 things first, that's probably
I have zero problems with that. We already have a Brotli implementation. We just don't have it, but it seems reasonable to have the decompression methods even reflect what the server can do, or what the client can do.
And then even if we add it to the enum now and we don't get around to making anything use it until later, then
it just basically identifies the header value. Any concerns with that?
it is the BR thing is in the IANA registry.
Yeah.
So where we will get the implementation? Is it open source or?
We already have one.
Yeah.
Oh, we already wrote
Yeah.
one. Okay.
But I think it's similar to the deflate thing. We took some stuff and wrapped it. So, all right, this one. Let's just skip this one.
1 second, I just want to connect the dots, at least for Jeremy and I, that read-only sequence is formerly read-only buffer, which we did review. I just didn't know that they changed the name to read-only sequence. I think I missed that jump.
I don't remember whether we changed it during the review or after the review.
I think it was after.
Yeah, I think I do recall being at the start of that meeting and then having the
I remember reviewing read-only buffer quite extensively, but I don't remember that name change.
This meeting, yeah, we didn't change the name during this meeting.
Okay, that was right.
I think we changed it possibly after the meeting because there was some issue with read-only. Oh, I know. There was an email thread because Steve had concerns about it being called read-only buffer.
Right.
Yeah, it caused all kinds of problems.
I just want to connect the dots so I understand.
All right, so 15 more minutes. Let's flow through. So what's open here? Didn't we already beat the horse with that?
Most of it.
what part of the horse is still alive.
It is. Yeah. So there are a couple. We should go one last time over and count all through the bits that are potentially we might want to consider options on. One of them being the properties that we expose on the file system entry.
Right.
So, and there was a question specifically for you on that Stephen brought up whether or not we should be.
The read-only span of char versus string?
Well, it's down further in the file system entry. Right there.
Yeah.
So, was exposing string for directory or sorry, for root directory and original directory. Like those are the, so original root directory is what you pass in to do your search. There conceivably and probably will be an opportunity to pass in a read-only span for your source that would kind of necessitate putting it back out as a read-only span. One would assume, right? It is a string, though, however, now, and if you don't track that, then you're going to cast it.
Well, but we did.
You have to compare it or whatever.
But we did add on memory extensions try get string.
That only
extension, not on.
But that only works for
memory, not span. Only for memory, not for span.
Yeah, and you don't have a way. We don't have a way to get it out.
Yeah, because
or
fast span, we cannot get out the stuff out of it.
Fast
It's
span
lost.
doesn't have try get array.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Even slow span doesn't have try get array. It's only on memory.
So there is one. I mean, there is some possibility here that, like, actually creating creating the root directory as opposed to the original root directory, I would also be doing on the stack. So it's just calling normalize, and like I plan to actually convert most of the system I/O stuff to actually normalize into a buffer, preferably on the stack when we're doing stuff internally.
Also, I was recently writing some code, and it's like a command line tool gets a command line switch. I slice it. Now I have a directory, but now I just have a slice. So not that it's super important for command line tools to be as efficient, but it may be useful in some cases.
Yeah. I just, the only reason I didn't add it right off the bat is because, like, it wasn't super high, as far as a constructor for the enumerator, because it wasn't super high priority. I'm trying to, like, shake the tree as hard as I can to make sure the other stuff actually is working in a way that's describable. Because there are some definite subtleties about how this stuff works, and I've been iterating on, like, the differences between Unix and Windows and stuff to, like, find rational ways to expose things. Because one of the things that came up and that is also, which we knew already, is like Windows gives you back all the data in one chunk, right? Unix does not. That introduces a bit of a timing question there. If you don't actually go and access the things that require doing an fstat or a stat, right? You don't get the data as it was when you got the original data back. So it ends up that, like, doing that makes the cost of enumerating on Unix like 3 times as much as it is to not get it. So that one I'm just kind of leaning. I decided that, like, the best thing to do is just describe when you're actually looking at the data being passed to you. It's imperative to you to actually grab the data you care about and not, like, sit on it and wait. So the behavior of the API is that it won't fill things out like that until you actually go and call for it. But it won't change after that fact either. So whatever we get, it'll stick. And I've constrained it to the one thing that we can't get. So, like, I get the existing flags for Unix, right? For like, whether it's read hidden or whatever. To the point where I can't get, which is read-only. Read-only is the only one where we have to make other calls to go and see, like, who the owners are and so on and so forth. But that's the only flag I switch from that point. So I keep the original set that I do without that, but I can make additional decisions on internally. And then that particular flag could change from what it would have been when it was enumerated, potentially. Right. The other ones, of course, are the size and the timestamps. Those things you have to actually go back and get as well. But for the rest of it, we have his directory and things like that. It might be prudent to add an is hidden as well to make it super consistent and not costly. Because if you go back, because that's another common one you want to be getting. Look, if you go get the attribute set, I have to go look for read only. I could add is hidden as well, because it's another common one that like is on both platforms.
So
I already had his directory specifically for this.
Hidden on Unix is a convention and not a rule.
Correct, but we have that convention is what we map to
Okay.
hidden.
All right, so we're already exposing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The caveat to that is that you can check. You can see, well, am I on Unix? Does my file name begin with a period? But there is a tax with that too, because then we have to convert from UTF-8
Right.
to UTF-16. So
Is it, so in most cases, is it actually UTF-8 or it's ASCII?
well, I don't think people usually name stuff outside of the ASCII space.
And do you,
So that's
do you
why,
have an
like
easy way to detect whether it's ASCII or not?
No, well, because they match, right? I mean, the first 127 code points make some things really easy internally. That's why so like hidden is easy because you just look for space.
But in Linux we support UTF-8 only. We don't support any.
I was
other.
just thinking that like conversion from ASCII to UTF-16 is relatively cheap. We could do like a vectorized widening operation.
So, but like there are certainly optimizations because of the code. The optimizations for hidden, you don't have to convert, right? You can look at the UTF-8 buffer, which we actually have in this case, and I can say, like, I certainly do that for the special directories. I look for period and period.
Yeah, actually, if you point the memory and you say UTF-8, if it is ASCII, you say this is UTF-8, it will work.
Yeah.
I would be wrong, but I would assume that in non-English speaking countries, it would actually be pretty common for there to be non-ASCII characters.
Right.
The special ones we're looking for sure is like those things are available to be checked without having to do any sort of conversion. The space and the period stuff.
Right. Space can be non-ASCII too, right?
Huh?
You can have non-ASCII spaces.
Well, yeah, but like the ones that have special meaning, if we're looking for things, it's period is the main one, right?
Yeah, I mean, like.
But period does not have any. You can't use a different type of period. It has to be that period to be hidden or be that special directory stuff. So those checks are cheap.
There's definitely file system support that's required for non-ASCII because I think FAT16 is.
Yes.
Like FAT's just ASCII.
Right.
Well,
Or sorry,
depends.
FAT's extended ASCII.
It depends on which FAT you're talking
FAT's
about.
bytes. Okay.
Most FATs actually support the Unicode. It's just like what implementation of FAT Microsoft wants to.
I guess it's just a question, like, because I guess FAT's just bytes, so it's a question of what bytes did you write down. Since it was written before the creation of UTF-8, all bets are off. So
Yeah. There's some.
It could be custom code point. Who knows?
So I have another question about like anyone want to use the CPIs has to understand like the differences if you are running in Windows against running in Linux.
There's not much of a difference. So if you want to go to
Because
this
I'm
level,
seeing
yes.
a lot of implicit decisions we are taking in the codes that's really different between Windows and.
There's not a lot that's different. That's the main thing right there is that the data is not populated at the exact. It's not on Windows. It's atomic. Unix, there's no way to make it atomic. So that's the only caveat. You only get into that if you're actually writing the custom. Most people are going to be hitting the new options and things. Those things don't.
Plus some of the conversions from UTF-8 to UTF-16, correct?
Yeah, there's a tax on that, but like that's an implementation detail. The only thing that like really impacts your code in any significant way is just the atomicity of actually hitting some of the properties. But that's again if you're writing custom ones for that, and it's really kind of hard to fall over in those cases too. But it is possible. It's just the nature of the beast. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I mean, like at that level, like there's many things that could happen, right? If the file, like if somebody writes a directory while you're enumerating it, also crazy things can happen, right?
Yeah, all sorts of crazy things can happen.
Like
it's just like the data that you get out is not an atomic. There's no way to make it atomic in Unix, right? So that's just
right. But
we make it as atomic as we can be, and we can help push that a little further if we add is hidden to it as well. Because then you can get all the attributes that are very few of the attributes are actually given back on Unix. We try to map them, but like then you can get all the bits and pieces you need.
Can you at least get that last time the file was modified atomically with everything else? Because if you had that, you could kind of on top of it implement your own
And MS build would love it.
consistency.
Like that's the incremental check right there. Like last modified time is what MS build is.
To get it atomic, well, it's there, or you can get it. It's just, there's no way to get it atomically
Yeah.
in Unix.
Yeah, you cannot get it atomically with other things that you're getting.
Well, when you're enumerating, right? You're enumerating, you get back just the file type. And
So in order for us to close on this, is there any concerns about the API shape? I mean, we talked about a bunch of behaviors right now, but I think the API shape is fine.
So, I mean, like, change questions.
But stuff from strings, read-only span, I think those ones you added, right? These two at the bottom.
So, I mean, there is the question of...
those ones are there, those ones I had started
Okay.
helping like do delegates.
Never mind.
What? Do we want the properties read-only span of char, string, or read-only memory of char?
Well, they can't be read-only memory. The file name actually has to be read-only span because it's actually pointing at native stuff that's part of structs in some cases. I mean, yes, we could make it not that, but then that's kind of defeating the whole purpose. And the consistency there, I think, is far better because, like, I can and probably will change some of these other ones. Either some of them will be passed in as a read-only
Right.
span of car, or I'll be actually putting some portions of it on the stack. I actually, I went through and I changed it to use array pool for like all the directory names, and that one made some things faster and some things slower. So like I'm not jumping forward on that one. I have to spend more time with that, but like there's clearly lots of opportunity to continue to make changes here that will in some cases will definitely make it better, but.
One more week for API changes.
Yeah. Well, I mean internal stuff without changing the APIs. So,
So I'm fine with that.
are you okay with adding is hidden to it?
Yeah, I think it's it's
So I'll do that.
for one.
And then
Hidden is only hidden, right? It does not trigger for system files or anything like that, right?
There are different attributes in WordPress.
Right.
that one, yeah, there is no system one for.
Right.
I
I think we should probably review this one as well. I don't think we've done this one yet.
Okay. That's the exact. So those are it's the exact same APIs that take the existing. What's the name of the option? It's search option.
Search option, yeah.
But instead of search option, it's enumeration options.
And so we moved to enumeration option, match casing, match type.
We moved into system IO.
We moved all into system IO. And then, yeah, those ones just take that guy in. It seems reasonable. I think I'm not entirely sure on the existing APIs, but I think these ones are just overloads on the existing ones, right?
Yes.
Like past search pattern already exists, and then there is a search option, and we just made it.
It's exactly the same signature, except the last argument is instead of search option, it's enumeration options.
Yep.
For both sets there.
And then directory info is the same API, it's just using directory info as interesting. I think I never used this one ever.
Which one?
These ones I've never used, but yeah, makes sense.
You have to for some things.
Yeah, like I just usually just do paths.
Does match type DOS match our naming rules?
This one's awkward.
Especially because it says DOS.
Yeah.
Simple or too? Is what that trying to say. I'm just wondering if it should be all caps DOS.
Well,
Nope, it's like according to the guidelines. It's abbreviation.
According to the guidelines, we make up any rule that we want to justify the decision that we make.
No. It's a very specific rule. If it's a 2-letter abbreviation, it's kept all uppercase. If it's 3 letters or more, it's passed with case.
Unless it's RSA or...
Nope, those ones are all incorrect, and they just close their eyes on that one.
Indeed. Like I said,
so the only other alternative names for this aren't great. Technically, it's the Win32 style.
Yeah.
But like.
Yeah, I don't care whether we call it like Win32 or DOS. I mean, either one will probably work.
Win32 actually would look better as the enum member.
It probably would.
I guess to my sense of aesthetics, because then it doesn't say DOS.
It's more technically correct than DOS because it's not DOS. DOS is different. But
Alright, then let's call it Win32 because then we already have precedence for that term to show up. Let me just add this. Anything else? Otherwise, I will prove this API for good. Look at this like for like a million years.
Yeah, we have been looking at it. There was I have been documenting this stuff in fully, and I have all the comments in here. But like, one of the behavior changes that come about this is actually a feature request that people have been asking for, and that, like, this is a change of behavior to our existing stuff. Period. Is that we no longer match against 8.3 file names.
Right.
There's a consistency problem there that's been causing people grief for some time, and that 8.3 file name generation is slowly petering away. It's not created by the property is not turned on. That system, the volume setting is not turned on by default anymore, except for the system drive. So right now, people, this is one of those ticking time bombs that they get is like, well, were 8.3 file names turned on or not?
I used to explicitly turn it on so I could do star.csp tab and get CSproj, and then, then I decided I could just type the extra 2 letters.
Well, and now we have the ability now to actually mimic this sort of behavior. If you're like looking for .html and .html right now, you can do that efficiently. So that was the only other bit.
All right, then I think that's just.
So I'm going to add is hidden. We change that to Win32.
In this hidden one we just talked about, I would just sneak that in. The button successfully, maybe. Yay! All right. And I think now we're out of time because I also have to run to me. We need to come back to you. Sorry. Thanks for showing up.